upgrades, boundaries, borders. These are all something that come to mind when you think about moving into the future and progressing. As a people, we constantly want to progress. It's in our nature. But do we always know if it's a good thing or what consequences can be hidden behind it? One of the constantly upgrading companies in the current world is well known across the globe is going to be Tesla and Tesla Motors. Founded by famous entrepreneur Elon Musk, they're pretty well known for their electric cars, although they do make some solar panels and other reusable energy sources. They're constantly pushing the boundaries of the future and trying to do new things, which is great, but it also causes some controversy in some of the market. They have had many bumps in the road before and nearly even went bankrupt one time. But through all this, they have sort of prevailed. You see their cars on the road pretty often. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of their most popular things, what's kind of causing all the buzz about them, but also what can be, good or bad depending on what your opinion would be. So the first thing is, Tesla's biggest statement point kind of is that all their vehicles are fully electric. This is a big deal moving into the future because as pollution grows in our world, people are starting to get electric cars or kind of feel worried about the environment, so they're trying to do as much as they can to help. Many people believe that electric cars is what's kind of going to save the world, but also this is not always the case. So it actually causes a lot of pollution to manufacture these fully electric cars compared to normal gas cars. According to visualcapitalist.com, it is said that the electric vehicle manufacturing process actually produces 68% more emissions for a single car than it would for a gas-powered car. But to kind of balance that out, on average, these extra emissions are offset at only around 19,000 miles of driving each car. So although it does produce more emissions to manufacture these cars, the cars themselves actually produce so little emissions so that they're offset very quickly. One thing that I found out though was that depending on where you live and how electricity is actually produced, certain states produce more emissions just from the electricity consumption. So for example, Colorado is one of the worst states in the country because 70% of their electrical power comes from coal and other pollution creating emissions. Which I found interesting. Around the Washington area, it's mostly hydropower, so it's a lot more efficient to own an electric vehicle there than it would be in Colorado or Wyoming, for example. The next biggest thing that Tesla is known for is their autopilot feature. This allows drivers to be able to completely let the vehicle maneuver itself for them. However, it is mostly on long highways and stuff like that. This makes them extremely desirable to own because the idea of having a self-driving car sounds really amazing to many people, but it also sounds kind of scary to some people because you're putting a lot of trust in the vehicle. However, Tesla is very transparent about their safety and their autopilot and stuff like that. You can find on their own website that the Model S, Model X, and Model 3, that's all their current cars out right now, have achieved the lowest probability of injury of any vehicle ever tested by the US government's New Car Assessment Program. And also, for the entire year of 2019, on average, they reported an accident every 3.3 million miles driven while using the autopilot. And a surprising thing with that was that more accidents were actually reported when the autopilot was not active. So that's kind of showing that the safer people or people drive pretty unsafe, and you actually might be better off having the car drive for you moving into the future. So that's great. And although these statistics are great for the autopilot, people still are worried, morally, because there have been a few deaths reported randomly where people will be driving on the highway and the car just drives off the road because they think there's somebody next to them. And so that still causes a lot of controversy moving into the future. The final kind of thing that Tesla is pretty good about is that they're heavily discussed on price and if they're valued really well. So being one of the most like highly evolving car manufacturers, they are pretty pricey on average. They go from about 32,000 to 115,000 depending on which car exactly and which model of the car you're going for. But they do offer a very high luxury, safety, the fuel economy and performance just in general is pretty good for those pricings. But what Teslas do not very well compared to most places or most other car manufacturers is their reliability. So USA Today says that according to Consumer Reports 2018 auto reliability rankings, Tesla actually placed 27th out of 29 potential places. So this is showing that with most of their technology and newly adapting things, they are actually struggling to remain reliable. And since not very many people can fix Teslas other than Tesla, they can charge you a lot of money to get your car fixed. So these vehicles actually probably are more expensive and less valuable than many argue. Through all this controversy, Tesla still remains one of the most popular and fastest growing vehicle companies today. In April 2017, Tesla actually passed up GM to become the most valuable auto manufacturer in the US. So around that time, they were valued around 51.5 billion and GM was only 50.2 billion. They've been growing at a pretty exponential rate. You're starting to see them all over. People are really starting to really think that they're valuable, but the buzz is still there on whether they're not actually safe, whether they're cool or not. They're making a couple new models. Both the Model Y and the Cybertruck have a lot of buzz about them as well. However, it seems like in general, the future will be pretty bright for Tesla and their cars, and they'll be talked about for years to come, regardless if they are successful or not.